Hello everybody, welcome back to another light novel review. Today I am talking about volume number 1 in Shoutarou Mizuki's light novel series, Demon King Daimaou. Now this is being released via J-Novel Club, so currently only available in ebook format. Now this is a slightly older series. It published in Japan between 2008 and 2014. It is complete at 13 volumes. And in 2010, there was a 12-episode anime that was done on this series, and it covered, from what I have read, approximately volumes 1 through 5 of the light novel series. So if you've seen the anime, you've really only seen less than half of what there is in the series. Now, in this book, our main character, Akuto Sai, is a young orphan that is quite a serious and observant child, and because of his very serious nature and his way of sort of seeing the world, he grows up with not a lot of friends, but with this very dedicated sense of wanting to make the world a better place, this sense of right and wrong, this sense of justice. And so when he is old enough, he joins the National Magical Academy. Now, this place takes place in a future Japan where not only is magic a real thing, but technology has, of course, taken huge leaps. We have flying vehicles, we have, autonomous androids that are quite self-intelligent. So he goes to this magical academy, and when he arrives there, there's a machine that all new students have to be subjected to, and essentially it takes a look at a student's personality, their magical abilities, and so forth, and very much like Harry Potter's Sorting Hat, says what it thinks they're going to be in the future, whether they are best to be a teacher, a soldier, and so forth. And when Akuto sits down, the machine announces that he is going to be the next Demon King. And of course this sends shockwaves through the school because the Demon King, the last one, was 100 years ago and darn near destroyed the world. So of course right away this young boy who thought that he was going to make the world a better place has been foretold to, well, become a great source of evil. So essentially, really, like when I described this in the description, I was like, imagine Harry Potter goes to Hogwarts, and not only is he put into House Slytherin, but he's told he's going to be the next Voldemort. And that is pretty much what you have with Demon King Daimaou. Now, this series being a little bit older, it's kind of interesting to see a series that started 8 years ago, or, well, almost 9 years ago now, I guess. Well, yeah, it is 9 years ago. It came out, I think, in April of 2008, and now it being July, I mean, we're talking legitimately 9 years ago. It's very interesting to me to take a look at this book and see what elements of light novels from then are very still prevalent now. Now, this book is told in the third person. It is very much sort of it's a magical high school action. There's a good number of fights in it. It, of course, has harem elements. It has comedic elements. It plays up a lot of that sort of sexual innuendo type thing that we often find in harems. I mean, well, I'll get to it, but let's just say that there is one ongoing running joke about pulling an android girl's tail. Yeah, and that's just the start. Now, if we're going to talk about this book now, for one thing, I will say that the setup of this book, I thought, was cool. Like, it promises, I mean, I don't know how it delivers in the end because I'm just going by volume 1, but this whole idea of a main character who can start at one point to be this so filled with justice and then be told he will be the source of great evil, it's an interesting concept to me. And it also means that we have a character who has always been an outsider, who continues to be an outsider, but for an entirely different reason. And Akuto's character, it makes it a little bit more interesting because he's immediately starting off with this conflict of how he has seen himself and what he has seen for his future, and now being told that, no, maybe not. And it seems like every time he tries to correct people and show people that, no, I'm not capable of this evil, he actually just keeps talking and all of a sudden starts realizing, wow, I really do sound like I'm going to become a Demon King. And it's this sort of, change in the character that I think is interesting. And I must say that I'm kind of curious to see if the book goes whole in and actually does make this character a demon king, or like a force for change and everything else in this world, or whether it just tries to sweep that under the carpet and by the end say, oh no, pat him on the back, he's actually a really good guy at heart. It's hard to say. Now, of course, this book has a couple of things, like, because it's a harem, of course, we have immediately a number of girls in the book. The most interesting and most fun of these is the android that is sent to watch over Akuto from the government, or that is Korone. Pretty much every time I laughed in this book, it was because of her. She is pretty merciless in the way that she pokes fun at Akuto, and just her sort of deadpan delivery, because she says, like, emotions, while she's capable of them, it actually takes time for them to develop over her assignment. And so most of her delivery is very deadpan, very straight ahead, very, you still don't know if she's joking even if she says she's joking. And like I said, I laughed at her probably the best part of the book. But I think part of that is because since she's sent as an observer of Akuto, she's the one girl that is present for the majority of the book. The other members of this sort of growing harem, we don't see a whole lot of. We have Kina, who is the sort of ditzy girl, but she's at least interesting in the fact that there's a suggestion that there's maybe a lot more going on inside her head and in her backstory than what we're aware of. And then there's Junko, who is, of course, the very self-righteous, stoic female character who, despite the fact that she should absolutely despise Akuto because of who he may become, still can't seem to help but like him and perhaps even fall in love with the guy. I would say probably the biggest weakness of this book, when I was reading this book, I was really engaged in this book. And because it's fun. I mean, this is not like surgery, okay? This is not brain surgery. This is not, you know, rocket science. This is a very paint by numbers kind of action harem magic type book. The magic system is very simple. I mean, it's pretty much based on the whole idea of manipulating mana, ongoing thing, whether it be in yourself or outside of you, and essentially you manipulate mana through the strength of your will. That's it. It's very simple. It's pretty straight ahead, and to be honest, I really appreciated that, and I think for a story like this, it would have killed it to try and be too highbrow or complex with the magical system. The thing that bothered me about this story, though, like up until, you know, as we go along, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more conflict in Akuto with himself in terms of dealing with this prophesized future of his, even though he spends a lot of the book denying it, and then putting his foot in his mouth and almost making it seem way more accurate than what it is. I don't feel like there was enough inner conflict in him to really make me buy into it 100%. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more self-reflection, a little bit more tortured individual because of this such a diametrically opposite future compared to what he had envisioned for himself. Also, the ending of this book is where it, for me, kind of, well, it kind of crapped the bed a little bit on that one. We have this pretty good story up until then. It's fun. It's kind of cool. The sort of things seem to keep feeding into each other. And then we build up to this big sort of thing at the end. And it seems to get resolved way too quickly. We have characters' feelings seem to just all of a sudden pivot and change so fast, even though we really haven't spent enough time with that character to justify that change. The ending, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the ending, if you think too much about a certain part of the ending, you will realize, man, that's kind of a dark thing to try and play up for laughs. And you'll probably know exactly what I mean when you get there. But this book still has a great premise. And Akuto as a character himself, I am interested in, because even though I grumble a little bit that I wish he had been a little bit more tortured by this whole thing, I do like seeing how his sense of justice and his sense of things that are admirable become kind of twisted, and because of his actions, even though they seem completely justified, you start realizing, like, wow, I could see where society, even though you have this noble intention, actually is going to view this as evil, is actually going to view you as fulfilling this prophecy. And I think that there's a little bit of play in here in terms of that idea of an individual that isn't evil, but because their views are different than societal norms, they are villainized. And you see a bit of this happening. So to me, there are definitely themes, and there's definitely like a story here that could be interesting, that has me curious in terms of what happens going forward. Is this book just going to sort of devolve into nothing but a fight of the week and increasing size of harem of girls that have very little personality and just fit your sort of atypical archetypes and are only there to increase the number of sexual hijinks or play for laughs, that, you know, panty shots and accidental groping and all that kind of stuff? Is that what this is going to become? Because if it is, I think that's too bad, because it's really wasting a good idea, a good premise. So overall, this first volume, great premise, fairly decent main character, definitely interesting because of the opposing sort of ideas in terms of what is fate and what you see yourself as. That part's interesting. A little bit hampered, I would say, by very bland secondary characters, although, like I said, Korone the android, she gave me more than a good fair share of laughs. But there are certainly elements in this book that suggest that it could become a lot less than what these first initial ideas are. And the ending, I was let down by. I thought the ending kind of really, like, I just got there and I was like, really, that's how you're gonna solve this? And that's what's said, and suddenly these characters are changing their mind just with that? It didn't make me buy it. And that, like I said, was quite unfortunate, because overall, otherwise, it's a really enjoyable volume. Don't go into it thinking that you're getting something super, like, amazing. As I said, it's really funny to take a look at a book that's 9 years old and see all of the sort of tropes and archetypes that seemed so common then that have continued to be carried over into light novels even now, 9 years later. I mean, how many light novels do I talk about that are harems, where the girls are hardly developed, where even the main character is kind of bland? I mean, at least in this one, the main character is kind of interesting. I mean, yeah. So overall, Demon King Daimaou, this first volume, certainly some prospects of good stuff. Little things that make me afraid of where it may go in the future, but I'm definitely in for volume 2 to at least see where things go and how this story progresses. So those are my thoughts on volume number 1 of Demon King Daimaou. My next review is going to be on Psycho May volume number 2. A lot of you have been asking me to get back to Psycho May, and to be completely honest, I really liked the first volume, and it's one of those series that I keep telling myself I need to get back to, but I just keep getting swept up in all these new light novels that are coming out. But next time, I will be reading Psycho May Volume 2 to see how this series continues. So if you're brand new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, because heck, if you like light novels, I review a lot of them. Thank you all so much for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.